Judge Malcolm Hargrove doubted her before she finished her first sentence. He didn't say, "I don't believe you," because judges rarely do. He did it the way authority does it when it wants the room to follow, without admitting bias. A slow blink, a slight tilt of the head, a tight little smile that suggested the story in front of him was already inconvenient. "Ms. Lockett," he said from the bench, voice smooth and faintly bored, "I'm going to remind you that you are under oath. You need to answer the questions asked, not tell stories." The courtroom in Fulton County was quiet except for the scratch of pens and the soft hum of the air system. Wooden benches, flags, the seal behind the judge like a stamp on everything said inside. The defendant's table held a white corporate attorney with a gray suit in a folder thick enough to look like certainty. On the other side, at the plaintiff's table, sat a young public interest lawyer biting her lip hard enough to leave a mark. At the witness stand stood Danielle Lockett, 32, black, hair pulled into a neat bun, a plain navy dress and sensible shoes. She didn't look like she'd come to perform. She looked like she'd come to survive. Her hands rested lightly on the edge of the stand, knuckles barely pale. Danielle was the only witness who had actually seen what happened on the night of the accident that brought everyone here. A delivery truck owned by Briarstone Logistics had struck a small car at an intersection, dragging it into the curb, leaving the driver, an older woman named Mrs. Helen Park, permanently injured. Briarstone claimed their driver had the green light. Their attorney had diagrams and expert timing reports. The police report leaned Briarstone's way because the responding officer had relied on the truck driver's statement and a traffic camera angle that didn't clearly show the signal. Everyone had been ready to call it unfortunate. Danielle wasn't. Danielle had been waiting at that same intersection in a rideshare. She'd seen the truck run the red light. She'd heard the impact. She'd watched the driver step out and immediately start talking, fast, calm, rehearsed, before anyone else could gather their senses. Danielle had taken out her phone that night and recorded what she could. The aftermath, the driver's words, the position of the vehicles, the crosswalk signal still blinking for pedestrians because it had been their turn to cross. She had emailed the clip to the investigating officer the next morning. She had followed up twice and gotten no response. Weeks later, she learned the clip wasn't in the official case file. Now she was here under oath, trying to put the truth into a system that had already decided what was likely. Across the room, Briarstone's attorney, Gavin Shore, stood with that calm, polished confidence that comes from being paid to bend reality. He didn't need to shout. He had the tone of someone who believed the room belonged to him. "Ms. Lockett," he said, "you claim you saw the light." "Yes," Danielle replied, "and you claim the truck ran a red light." "Yes," Gavin smiled slightly, "from inside a rideshare, at night, in the rain." "It was misting," Danielle said carefully. "Not heavy rain." Gavin's smile widened. "So you want this court to believe that you, from a back seat, saw the signal more accurately than the driver of a commercial vehicle in the responding officer's report." Danielle felt the familiar heat in her chest, the heat of being made to sound ridiculous for describing what she actually saw. She kept her voice steady. "Yes, because I was facing the signal. The truck was coming from the cross street." Gavin turned toward the judge with a shrug that said, "Can you believe this?" Judge Hargrove leaned forward slightly. "Ms. Lockett," he said, "I'm not interested in speculation. Do you have anything concrete besides your memory?" Danielle swallowed. "Yes, Your Honor. I submitted a video." Gavin's eyebrows lifted in feigned surprise. "A video?" Danielle nodded. "From my phone. It shows the intersection immediately after. It captures the pedestrian signal still active. It also captures the truck driver saying, 'I didn't see it change.'" Gavin's smile didn't move. "Convenient." Danielle looked toward her attorney, Sonia Patel, who stood quickly. "Your Honor, the witness is referencing Exhibit 12, the video file we listed in our disclosure." Gavin shook his head smoothly. "Objection. There is no Exhibit 12 in the court packet. It is not in evidence." Sonia frowned. "It was submitted with our filings." Gavin turned to the judge. "Your Honor, opposing counsel is attempting to introduce non-existent evidence through testimony." Judge Hargrove's expression hardened. "Ms. Patel, if it's not in the packet, it's not in evidence. We proceed with what we have." Danielle's stomach dropped. She had expected resistance. She had not expected the video to be missing again. Sonia's voice tightened. Your Honor, may we request a brief recess to locate the exhibit? It was provided. Judge Hargrove waved a hand. Denied. We are not pausing for disorganization. Disorganization. That word landed like an insult aimed at the wrong person. Danielle had been organized. She had done everything they asked. She had provided what she had. The disorganization lived somewhere else, somewhere in the machinery that decided her evidence didn't need to exist. Gavin stepped closer to the witness stand, voice gentle like a trap. So, Ms. Lockett, no video for the court to see. Just your word. Danielle felt her hands tighten slightly on the edge of the stand. She forced them to relax. I sent it, she said quietly. Gavin smiled. To whom? Danielle named the officer. Gavin nodded. And you have confirmation it was received? Danielle blinked. I have the email. Gavin's smile sharpened. An email is not evidence of what's in your video. It's evidence you claim you sent something. Danielle opened her mouth to respond, but Judge Hargrove cut in, tone impatient. Ms. Lockett, answer only what's asked. Danielle felt it then, the tilt of the room, the way the judge's impatience always seemed to point in her direction, not the attorney twisting her words, the way her calm was treated as suspect, the way her insistence on facts was treated as stubbornness. She took a breath and said, Your Honor, the exhibit exists. It's missing. The judge's eyes narrowed. Be careful, Ms. Lockett. The warning sat in the air. In the clerk's area beside the bench, court clerk Maribel Santos had been quiet all morning. Latina, early 30s, hair pulled back, glasses low on her nose. She handled evidence packets, logged exhibits, managed the boring machinery that made court official. Clerks weren't supposed to interrupt. Their job was to keep the machine running, not question where it rolled. But Maribel had been watching. She saw how the judge looked at Danielle. She saw how Gavin Shore smiled when he said the exhibit wasn't in the packet. She saw Sonia Patel's frustration, and she remembered something from earlier that morning when she assembled the file. A placeholder tab labeled Exhibit 12 Digital Media, with no media attached. It had bothered her. Digital exhibits were often mishandled, lost between email chains, corrupted drives, mislabeled folders. But this one felt too neat, too perfectly missing at the exact moment it mattered. Maribel had asked the court IT tech about it earlier. He shrugged and said, if it's not in the portal, it wasn't submitted. Easy answer, convenient answer. But Maribel didn't fully believe convenient answers anymore. She'd worked enough cases to know when something vanished because of incompetence and when something vanished because someone benefited from it vanishing. So while the courtroom argued around Danielle's word, Maribel quietly opened the digital evidence portal on her terminal and searched again, not by exhibit number, but by metadata, the plaintiff's case name, timestamp, file type. A result popped up, not labeled Exhibit 12, labeled Supplemental Parking Lot Clip with a date matching Sonia Patel's submission. Maribel's pulse quickened. She clicked. The file was a .mp4, size 47 megabytes, uploaded 3 weeks ago, view count 0. It had been uploaded. It had just been filed under the wrong label, whether by accident or by someone who knew exactly how to bury something without technically deleting it. Maribel didn't know which. She only knew it was there. On the witness stand, Danielle's voice stayed steady but strained. I saw the truck enter on red. Gavin's tone turned mocking. And yet, no video. Judge Hargrove sighed like the case was wasting his time. Ms. Lockett, if you cannot provide supporting evidence, your testimony will be weighed accordingly. Weighed accordingly. A polite way of saying discounted. Maribel stood. Your Honor, she said. The courtroom froze. Clerks do not interrupt judges unless something is wrong enough to justify it. Judge Hargrove looked annoyed. Ms. Santos? Maribel held a small USB drive and a printed docket sheet. Her voice was calm, professional. Respectfully, Your Honor, the digital media file corresponding to Exhibit 12 appears to have been uploaded under a mislabeled category in the court portal. I located it just now. Gavin Shore's face changed so fast it was almost visible as a physical movement. Smile collapsing, eyes narrowing, posture stiffening. Sonia Patel straightened like she'd been jolted. Danielle's breath caught. Judge Hargrove blinked. You located it. Maribel nodded. Yes, Your Honor. It is in the system. It appears to have been misfiled. Gavin snapped. Objection. There's no foundation. Judge Hargrove raised a hand. Sit down, Mr. Shore. Gavin froze, then sat slowly, jaw tight. Judge Hargrove looked at Maribel. Can it be played? Maribel nodded. Yes, if the court allows. The judge's face shifted into something more cautious now, less dismissive, more attentive, because now the court was about to see something, and seeing changes what authority can pretend not to know. Play it, Judge Hargrove said. Maribel connected the file to the courtroom display. The screen at the front flickered, then showed grainy nighttime footage, headlights, wet asphalt, the intersection in the distance. Audio filled the room, muffled voices, rain hiss, sirens approaching. The clip began with Danielle's phone pointed at the aftermath. The Briarstone truck angled awkwardly, the small car crushed against the curb, people shouting. Then the camera panned toward the crosswalk signal. It was blinking, a white walking figure, the kind that appears only when pedestrians have right-of-way, only when cross traffic should be stopped. Sonia Patel whispered, "Oh." Gavin Shore's face went pale. Danielle stood very still, tears threatening but controlled, because her body recognized vindication before her mind could fully trust it. Then the audio caught the truck driver's voice, clearer than expected. I didn't see it change, the man said. I thought I had it. A second voice, someone from the crowd, said, You ran that light. The driver replied, Man, I didn't. Look, I'm late. I'm late. The courtroom was silent except for the video. Maribel paused it at the crosswalk signal and zoomed slightly. Judge Hargrove leaned forward, eyes locked on the screen. Gavin tried to speak. Your Honor, the judge cut him off sharply. Not now. Maribel resumed playback. The clip showed the truck driver stepping away and making a phone call immediately, pacing. The audio picked up fragments. Yeah, there's an accident. I might need you, just tell them. It wasn't a confession, but it was something worse for a corporate defense. It was the sound of someone trying to manage the story. When the video ended, the room stayed frozen for a beat. Judge Hargrove stared at the screen longer than he meant to, then looked down at Danielle like he was seeing her for the first time as a credible person instead of a problem. Ms. Lockett, he said slowly, this video corroborates your testimony. Danielle's voice came out quiet. Yes, Your Honor. Sonia Patel stood. Your Honor, we move to admit the video as Exhibit 12 and request the court compel Briarstone to produce internal driver communications from that evening. The driver's statements indicate potential coordinated response. Gavin Shore stood quickly, panic bleeding through polish. Your Honor, this is improper. This video is... Judge Hargrove's voice turned cold. Mr. Shore, you just told this court Exhibit 12 did not exist. It exists, and it is highly relevant. Gavin swallowed. It was mislabeled. Judge Hargrove's eyes narrowed. By whom? Gavin hesitated half a second too long. Sonia Patel said, Your Honor, the upload metadata shows it was received. If it was misfiled, we ask for a review of handling and a protective order to preserve all digital evidence logs. Judge Hargrove nodded once, sharply. Granted. Gavin's face tightened into a mask of damage control. We object to implications of misconduct. Judge Hargrove didn't blink. Then you should welcome transparency. Then with the entire room watching, Judge Hargrove did something Danielle hadn't expected. He corrected himself. Ms. Lockett, he said, voice formal but different now, I apologize for implying your testimony was unsupported. The exhibit was missing from the packet, not from reality. Danielle's throat tightened. She nodded once. Thank you. She didn't say what she wanted to say, that she shouldn't need an exhibit to be believed, that she had been telling the truth from the start, that the doubt had been a choice. She didn't need to say it. The room had heard it anyway. After the hearing outside the courtroom doors, Sonia Patel hugged Danielle quickly, careful not to wrinkle her suit too much, but unable to hide relief. You did it, Sonia whispered. Danielle exhaled shakily. The video did it. Sonia shook her head. You did. You kept showing up. Maribel Santos exited behind them carrying a stack of files. Danielle stepped toward her. Ms. Santos, Danielle said softly. Thank you. Maribel's expression was tired but kind. I'm sorry you had to fight for a file that was already there. Danielle swallowed. Me too. Maribel hesitated, then said quietly, keep copies of everything. Always. Danielle nodded. I will. 2 weeks later, Briarstone's story unraveled fast. With the video admitted, the plaintiff's team subpoenaed driver logs and internal dispatch calls. It turned out the driver had been behind schedule and had received texts from a supervisor pushing him to make up time. The company tried to argue it was normal pressure, but normal pressure doesn't excuse running a red light. It just explains why someone did. Mrs. Helen Park received a settlement large enough to cover long-term care and rehabilitation. It didn't give her back her mobility fully, but it gave her dignity and support. Danielle testified again, this time with the exhibit on screen from the beginning. No smirk, no warnings. No stories. And the judge? Judge Hargrove didn't become a different man overnight, but he did something that mattered. He issued a written order demanding that digital exhibit handling procedures be updated in Fulton County Court, including audits of misfiled items. Bureaucratic changes. Quiet changes. The kind that prevent the next witness's truth from disappearing into a folder named something harmless. For Danielle, the real ending wasn't the settlement. It was the moment the room went silent when the clip played, when the system that had doubted her had to stare at the truth in high definition. Because that was what it came down to. They doubted the black witness because disbelief is the default in too many rooms, and because it's easier to treat a person's testimony as a story when the person is someone you've been trained not to fully see. Until the clerk found the missing exhibit, until the evidence appeared and forced the court to confront what Danielle had been saying all along.